Okay, so let's unpack this. We live in a culture that just loves to talk about, you know, the grind.
Absolutely.
We see it on LinkedIn. We see it in those intense sports documentaries. We see it in all those biopics about tech founders. There is this really pervasive idea that to be truly great at something, to be world class, you have to give up literally everything else.
Right. You have to be totally obsessed.
Exactly. You have to be obsessed. But today, we aren't looking at a startup founder or an athlete. We are looking at the grandmother of that entire genre.
It's kind of the original cost of greatness story.
It really is. We are looking at a film from 1948 that took this question of, well, the question of what is the price of perfection? And it painted it in the most vivid, hallucinatory colors imaginable. We're doing a deep dive today into Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger's masterpiece, The Red Shoes.
This is a massive topic, and I want to be clear right off the bat for everyone listening. This isn't just a ballet movie.
No, definitely not.
If you're picturing tutas and polite applause, you are in the wrong place. The sources we've pulled for this deep dive, the British Film Institute archives, the Criterion Collection essays, and some really great critical retrospectives from Roger Ebert, they treat this film almost like a horror movie wrapped in silk.
Horror movie wrapped in silk. That is a great way to put it. Because it is scary. It's incredibly beautiful, but it is fundamentally scary.
Yeah, it is.
And our mission today is to figure out why this 75-year-old film is still kind of the definitive statement on artistic obsession. We're going to look at the psychology of the red shoes metaphor, that impossible choice between love and art, and the historical trauma that was hiding underneath all that glamour.
And we really have to start with the source material itself, because Powell and Pressburger, they didn't just invent this story out of thin air. They went back to Hans Christian Andersen.
Right, the fairy tale.
Mm,
And I think most people hear fairy tale and they immediately think Disney.
sure, yeah, happy endings.
Happy endings, singing animals, that whole thing. But I was reading the summary of the original Anderson story in our notes, and wow, it is a nightmare.
It's incredibly grim. I mean, Anderson didn't write for the faint of heart.
No, he didn't. In the original story, the girl puts on the red shoes to go to church, which I guess is already a sin of vanity in that specific context.
Right.
And then the shoes just start dancing.
Yeah.
They won't let her stop. And eventually, to save herself, she has to find an executioner to literally chop her feet off.
And the detail that always sticks with me from that is that the feet keep dancing without her. They just dance away into the forest.
Yeah, it's definitely not making it into the animated family version.
No, definitely not. But that core horror, that specific loss of control, is exactly what the filmmakers wanted to capture. They just translated it.
Right.
So instead of a peasant girl and a cursed pair of leather shoes, we have Victoria Page, who is this rising ballerina. And the shoes aren't just footwear. They represent the vocation, the calling with a capital C.
So let's dig into that first big theme then, the metaphor. Because the film is not subtle about this at all. There's a literal ballet within the movie that tells the fairy tale story. But the movie itself implies that being a great artist is the curse.
It's a very specific type of curse, too. The Criterion essays point out this double-edged sword. On one side, the red shoes represent the absolute peak of human achievement.
Right.
To be the prima ballerina, to be the one wearing the shoes, is to be touched by the divine almost. It's incredibly seductive. Everyone in that world wants to be in that spotlight.
But the flip side is the trap.
Exactly. The trap is the total loss of autonomy. The central premise we're looking at here is that you don't dance the shoes dance you.
Oh, man.
It's a total reversal of power. Like in a healthy career, you control your work, you clock in, you clock out. But in the world of the red shoes, the work controls you. It dictates when you sleep, what you eat, and who you're allowed to love.
And visually, they really hammer this home. We have to talk about the Technicolor, because I feel like we use that word a lot today, Technicolor, just to mean something is colorful.
Yeah, we throw it around.
But looking at the technical notes from the sources on the cinematic technique, this was a whole different beast in 1948, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of those things where understanding the context completely changes how you see the movie. In 1948, Technicolor wasn't just a digital filter you slapped on in post-production. It was this massive industrial process.
Right.
You had to use a camera that was literally the size of a refrigerator. And it ran 3 separate strips of film simultaneously, one for red, one for blue, one for green.
And the lighting requirements for that were insane.
Blindingly hot. To get those colors to actually register on the film stock, the sets had to be lit so brightly that the actors were often physically uncomfortable. They were sweating through their makeup, sometimes nearly fainting from the heat.
Wow.
So when you see that intense saturation on screen, you're seeing a massive physical effort. It took a toll.
So when they used the color red, they really meant it? It was never an accident?
Never an accident. The red in this film, the shoes themselves, her hair, the velvet curtains, it pops off the screen in a way that modern film rarely achieves. The sources describe it as the lifeblood.
The lifeblood.
Yeah, it signals passion, obviously, but also danger. It's like a stop sign and a beating heart at the exact same time. When you see that red, you are seeing the character's obsession physically manifest on screen. It's designed to create a visceral reaction in you as the viewer.
It really connects to that theme of identity we saw in the outline. One of the scariest ideas in the film is that without the shoes, without the dance, the protagonist, Victoria Page, doesn't really exist.
That is the existential crisis at the heart of the whole film. The expert reviews discuss this idea of identity shaped by vocation.
Right.
If you work in accounting, say, you probably don't feel like you cease to exist when you close your laptop at 5.
Right.
But if you are a great artist, at least in the eyes of this film, you are never not that thing.
You can't turn it off.
Exactly. The film suggests that the human being, the actual woman named Victoria, is just a vessel for the dancer. And the dancer is a monster that basically eats the human.
Which brings us to the character who enforces that rule, the villain of the piece. Or, well, is he the villain? I'm talking about Boris Lermontov, the impresario who runs the ballet company.
Lermontov is one of the truly great characters in cinema history. He is fascinating because he is so articulate about his own cruelty.
He's terrifying, honestly. He's cold, he's intensely controlling, but he also seemed to have a point, at least within the internal logic of the movie.
And that is the really uncomfortable part. This brings us to the second major theme we need to look at. The impossible choice. Lermontov presents this completely binary world. He basically tells Victoria, look, you can have a normal life, a husband, comfort, and love, or you can be a great dancer. You absolutely cannot be both.
It feels so dated on the surface, doesn't it? The idea that you can't have it all. But then I look at modern hustle culture, or how we talk about elite athletes, like we mentioned earlier, and I wonder if we've actually moved past it at all.
We haven't moved past it. We've just rebranded it. Lermontov is the voice of the greedy god of art.
The greedy god.
Yeah, there's this pivotal scene where he finds out one of his lead dancers is getting married, and he just fires her immediately. Not because she broke a specific rule or missed a rehearsal, but because he believes her focus is split.
Right.
He says something to the effect of, you cannot be a great artist if you are distracted by the doubtful comforts of human love.
The doubtful comforts. That is so deeply cynical. It frames love as this messy, petty distraction from greatness.
It is cynical, but the Roger Ebert retrospective makes a really fascinating point here. The movie portrays Lermontov as cruel, yes, but it also clearly shows that he creates actual magic.
The art is real.
The art he produces is undeniable. It's breathtaking. So the viewer has to wrestle with this tension. Is Lermontov a monster, or is he just the only person honest enough to say out loud what greatness actually costs?
I want to push back on that a bit, though, because that sounds like the classic excuse for toxic behavior in the workplace. You know, that whole, oh, he's a genius, so he's allowed to be a tyrant thing.
And that is exactly the tension the film plays with. Lermontov is a tyrant. He views his dancers as instruments, not as people. But the film asks a really hard question. If you want to see the most beautiful ballet in the world, do you need a tyrant to force it into existence?
And it doesn't say no.
It doesn't. In fact, it kind of whispers yes.
It's the power dynamic of the mentor, too. He's not just her boss. He's the ultimate gatekeeper to her dreams. If she wants the red shoes, she has to accept his terms completely.
And that is where the conflict eventually explodes. Because she falls in love. She falls in love with the composer, Julian. And Julian represents everything that Lermontov hates.
Right.
Julian represents warmth, humanity, imperfection, real life. Lermontov represents cold, crystalline perfection. And the film literally pulls Victoria between them.
And it's not just a metaphorical pull either. There are scenes where she looks physically ill from the stress of it. You can see she's just being torn apart.
Because she's being asked to amputate a part of herself. If she chooses Julian, she kills the dancer. If she chooses Lermontov, she kills the woman. It is an impossible bind.
This internal pressure cooker eventually blows the lid off the movie completely. We have to talk about the centerpiece, the sequence everyone talks about when they talk about this film, the ballet of the red shoes.
Yes, this is the moment the film just leaves reality behind entirely.
The notes from our sources say this sequence is 17 minutes long. 17 minutes right in the middle of a narrative film. That sounds like commercial suicide for a movie in the 1940s,
Yeah.
just stopping the plot for a 17-minute dance number.
It was a massive risk, a huge risk. But this is where the movie shifts from a backstage drama into what the BFI sources call a psychological expression.
Break that down for us. What does psychological expression actually mean in this